How's it going, everyone? This is Yxlarb, senior co-host, here with...
Bosniancheese, executive senior co-host.
There you go. And welcome to another podcast. This is your regularly scheduled podcast post main series completion. That's the official title. And for those in the dark, yesterday, December 17th, our Resident Evil 4 TMP only no merchant run came to an end. That was a very interesting walkthrough we did there. That was the first main series, which was a collaboration not to feature Bosniancheese. And I hope you didn't feel left out by that. But
I did.
yeah, well, too bad. It already happened. I should have spoken up earlier. Yeah, that was really something. For those who don't recall, because these don't come out too often, there really is no major, format. It's just sort of we open up with a discussion on the most recently completed main series, and then we just kind of dive into discussing whatever we want for an hour or so. So since I was involved in that series, I'll discuss it.
Yeah, right. Let's hear it.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's my experience. So that was definitely one of the most frustrating series to create. Not because the game wasn't fun, but because we had significant technical difficulties early on. So it's December 18th when we're recording this. So it's been nearly 1 year since we first recorded that series in full. My brother Andy and I, who you guys may recall, he and we recorded the series. I think it was technically over the course of 2 days, but it was within a 12-hour period. We recorded late into the night one night, slept for a few hours, recorded the rest the next day. And I mean, the whole purpose of it was, hey, Andy's visiting me here in my apartments. We only have a couple of days. Why don't we record an entire series? And that's what we did. And then we started uploading that series, I believe, in March. So a couple of months after the fact, just to sort of line up with the next phase, which happened to be alongside Star Wars Battlefront 2, Bosniancheese's solo series. And I think only 6 episodes came out before the technical difficulties spiked. It was really just one instance. It wasn't multiple difficulties. But I was transferring data from my laptop to my external drive, which is what I do with all our YouTube footage and everything else. That way we have the originals on hand, and then I back up that drive. I'm pretty OCD about it, which is why it's all the more astounding that this mistake even happened. Basically, I thought I had transferred the remaining files. So, through episode 6 was about a quarter of the series. I thought I had transferred the remaining files over, and I proceeded to delete them from my laptop to free up some space for something else. And then when I went back to look for them, the next day, they weren't there. And I realized pretty quickly that I accidentally deleted them. But of course, by that point, I had already used my laptop a good amount. And for those who don't know, basically, once you delete files accidentally, and by the way, the reason why these were deleted was because if the files are large enough, it'll just permanently delete them. It won't even move them to the recycling bin. So this applies in that specific scenario where it doesn't go to the recycling bin. Instead, it's permanently deleted. Basically, stop using your computer immediately, unless you have some sort of recovery software and you already know how to do it. Just stop using it. Ideally, you would turn it off and then bring it to in our old town, we had a VGH. I don't know if that's a chain store or not, but basically I'm sure Best Buy would deal with that sort of thing. And then, you might have to pay a hefty sum, but in this case, it was worth it. I utilized their services, but unfortunately, because I'd already used my laptop a bunch, the deleted data, part of it became permanently lost. So the footage was significantly corrupted. It was just a disaster. Probably 2/3 of it was fucked, at least half.
Did they charge you still?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So that was a pain, but I mean, they did give me a discount, so that was
that's good.
I mean, I knew the chances were slim anyway, but I figured at that time, especially the pandemic started hitting pretty hard here in the United States, so it was like, well, I'm not gonna be able to see Andy for months, maybe. At that time we were still thinking it might be weeks, but pretty much months, and so that's a lot of work down the drain. So I figured it was worth it. So that was basically what caused it all to be frustrating, because from there we were basically repeating 3/4 of a run we had already done. by the end, so much time had passed. It's been like 9 months since we started uploading it. So a lot of time had passed since we started recording. So it got to be much more fresh. But initially, it was very frustrating because we had to work our way back up to that point in the game, up through episode 6, and then continue recording from there. And Bosniancheese knows. I recall recording Resident Evil 5 Mercenaries back in the day, 5 years ago, and not screwing up like 1 or 2 videos or something, and then having to redo it or something. It's like, oh no, we have to come back to this like another day. And that's when we're talking 1 video.
Yeah.
Here we're talking 16 videos.
Oh gosh,
So,
yeah.
there you go. But moving on to the positives, it was actually very fun. Not to give too much away in case you haven't seen it all, but a few years ago, I guess, I did a Resident Evil 4 rifle only run with the original rifle in the game. And that one was a ton of fun. This one was totally different. I'd say it was more difficult in almost every single way because since we couldn't use the merchant, that meant no upgrading the TMP. So it was just a stock ass TMP all the way through. It's just so weak. Ammo is such a concern. Spoiler alert, we managed to make it work because the series is complete. I'm sure you deduced that. It was possible just on that basis alone. But it was challenging. It was fun. And basically the way we did it was Andy and I alternated controls. I would start off, and then when I died or completed a chapter, switched back to Andy, and so on and so forth for the remainder of the series. And it was an interesting way to approach a single player game as a collaboration. And it was nice. It was nice for Andy, especially because for those who don't know, he's been on his way to starting a YouTube career for like 5 years now. He's almost there. But I figured this would be really good practice for him, especially because it can be difficult. Bosniancheese knows this. When you go into a solo series and you're, new to YouTube or fresh to commentating over gameplay, it can be difficult to focus on both the game and your commentary. You want both to be interesting, but it's difficult to, split your thoughts into two things. So I figured he would get a good opportunity to, play, I thought his gameplay would do well because he had me to kind of counterbalance the commentary. And then in the moments when I would play, he would have the entire floor to just say whatever he wanted. And I think it was successful for that reason. And hopefully he comes about and does his own series soon because we all want it.
Of course, yeah. And he's hilarious. And if he can, translate just his hilarity into a commentary form, that'd just be great for YouTube. It'd be great for fans of us, fans of gaming, fans of funny things, because that's definitely a skill, being able to translate who you really are into your commentary. That can be definitely tough, definitely at first. It feels very forced. Everything's very tight. It's hard to it's just hard to let things flow. But after a while, and you get more free flowing with it, that's just what everybody wants. So yeah, hopefully he can do that. How was I have a couple questions. How was your guys' commentary together? Like, how did you think the commentary turned out? How did it feel commentating with him?
It definitely didn't feel as natural as commentating with you, but that just comes from, I think it was now, God, I couldn't even do the math. Like 9, maybe 10 years ago even, that we first started commentating videos together.
Yeah. And,
there was obviously some hiatuses in there, but we recorded probably like 700 plus videos, just gameplay videos together. So there you go. So of course it didn't feel as natural with Andy, who, lacks the experience, but because he's my brother, it still felt somewhat natural. The conversations we had were pretty typical of what we have in real life, where it's like, he'll say something stupid, I'll scold him. That's kind of how we grew up, with him being the older brother. But no, I think he did a good job portraying himself. I had a good time with it. Definitely whenever we started up a new recording session, because we were only meeting, I think, here near the end once a month, once every other month to do some work. When we would start up, it would be a little slow for both of us too, because I wasn't recording anything else in the meantime. But of course, because I had that experience, I can get up to speed a lot quicker. So you would notice that. But I think he did a good job. It's like Bosniancheese was saying, it's difficult to portray yourself as you are on video. I think we're very good at doing that at this point. Of course, there's always some reservations.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. That's actually something we can address here in a second. But like you were saying, it's definitely forced. I think people who want to get into YouTube have a conception in their heads about what people want to see or how videos are supposed to be made.
Yeah.
You look to what other people who are successful on YouTube are doing, and it's like, okay, I have to do something they do.
Yeah.
But the thing with creating an art is that there aren't really too many fundamental rules as to what is good or what is correct. It's not like writing like a legal paper. There's very specific rules. Like you have to follow all these rules, and just like 1 to 5% of it is your own flavor. With art, it's the complete opposite. It's like 1 to 5% is rules. The rest is just whatever you want it to be. No one can come back and be like, oh, hey, no, you can't do this because this one person who's like number one on YouTube doesn't do that. So that's clearly the wrong way to go. It's completely wrong. So once you can kick that, it might take a long time. It might take 100 videos. Some people might never get out of it. But once you can start portraying yourself, then you'll start finding people who really appreciate you for who you are. And those are, of course, the people you want to be your fans. I mean, is there really anything impressive about having fans who like a fake version of you? I'm not saying you can't be a character. I just want to give that little disclaimer. Like, you can be a character. You don't have to be you. What I'm saying is, if you think you're being you, but you're not, that's what that previous advice applies to. But anyway, I'll let you say your piece before we get into that.
I don't know, man. You covered it. Those are really beautiful points. I mean, that's definitely something I've considered a lot with music and less so acting. I think acting helped me kind of break that, because they say, like, really be you, and even if you're gonna be a character, that character needs to still be you. It's just you in a different situation, almost like I'm gonna say
like an alternate universe.
No, like a video game donkey or something. So it needs to be you if you lived a different life or were in a different situation. So it's like video game donkey. He posts these videos, and I don't know how much of it is actually him, but he's cussing all the time. He's loud, screaming. He just can't be constantly doing that. But you can tell, like, it's him. Like, that's him. That's probably the way he is. Sometimes, not all the time, but like the character is, what if that was him all the time? That's what the character is. Right, it's still you, but it's something different, and he's not like reaching too hard for something. And I think that's an issue. If you do reach too hard for something, you get burnt out a lot quicker, because that's a lot of effort. That is a ton of effort to really do that. And that's why the best artists, and really anything, make it look effortless. Like LeBron James makes basketball look kind of easy sometimes, and then good artists, good singers makes it look effortless, because it's just it flows a lot better. So that's really awesome to hear. Did you see a growth in your guys' commentary together, but also in Andy's specifically?
That'd be difficult to say without going back and watching it, because like I said, we started uploading 9 months ago or something like that, 9-10 months ago. And basically, once I upload the videos, I watch them through, I skip through just to make sure there's no glaring errors upon uploading it. And then otherwise, I don't watch it again often for, months, years in some cases. So I wouldn't be able to answer that without going back and actually looking. Plus, I don't know if you get this, but whenever I record something, I always get an impression in my head of how it went. Like I'm not going to tell you guys what the next collaboration series is, but Bosniancheese and I recorded a few episodes of that, and I thought the first episode just went horribly. I thought to myself when we finished, like, wow, we should go back and re-record that, because wow, that was, I explained it in that video a little bit. Each series has growing pains. your best video will probably be your second or third episode because you've kind of done the warm up on the first one. So I thought that, but then I just edited it. I always have that problem. Can you say that?
Edited.
Just try.
It's kind of tough. I'd have to do.
You say edited it.
Edited it.
Yes,
it's so like messy. 2 D's. There's no T in there, and then
I know it's annoying, but and it was amazing. It was a great video. So I mean, what I'm trying to say is just based on our recording experience together, it'd be a skewed perspective. I feel like I'd say it got better over time, and I feel like that in that way, it was sort of a blessing in disguise to have a lot of our videos, deleted in that way, because that was all recorded in one day. You can't have too much growth in one day. So I feel like it gave us another opportunity to play better, which, it's arguable that we did or not, but it definitely gave us an opportunity to, kind of learn more in between gameplay sessions and just sort of come up with new topics of conversation. That's sort of the problem with recording a series in one day, is that you have the same things in your head that whole day. I mean, once you start sitting down to record, what influences your commentary is what you've seen to that point. And there's only so many things to see in a day. So you start reaching to the past.
Yeah.
So having that progression can be nice, but actually, no, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna. That's a great point. Of you kind of, you just have that day, like the things in your head that day, and then after a while, it becomes you kind of become laser focused, like on the game, and like the past, bringing things up. But like I feel like if it's all in one day, you become just focused on the game, and like all your content comes from the game. Right. When like usually when we record a video, definitely, and we're gone for a while, we're talking about a lot of other stuff too. Like,
oh yeah, it's like primary focus is what's going on in our lives. It's secondary what's happening in the game.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Actually, way back when I first started, and I promise we're gonna get back to that subtopic I mentioned earlier. I haven't forgotten. When I started YouTube, which was, God, when was that? It must have, I keep getting the two numbers in my head, either 2011 or 2013. And I can never remember which one it is. It must, 2013 was when I graduated high school. So it must have been 2011, 2010 to 2011, that year. Back when I still considered years to be the academic school year, right? Not January to December. But I would record one video a day and then upload it that same day. So I did Resident Evil 4 way back in the day. And my justification was, I want to have something fresh to talk about every single day based on what happened that day. So even if I have time to record more than one, I'm not going to. I'd come home from school, 3:30, record the video, edit it, and upload it by like 5 or 6. It's like, and that was back when they had to be shorter, like 11 minutes was the max for a while. And then, went up to 15. So, that was tough to manage, though, I will say. I mean, I definitely don't think I could do that today. And I don't mean just today. I mean in the present time. Recording one video a day. But anyway, if you didn't have anything else to say on this specific matter, I was hoping we could jump back to something I had thought of. I guess maybe I wasn't too explicit, but
let's hear it.
So I was saying before how I feel as though you can't be yourself 100%. At least when, I'm sure you can come up with some exception, but I can't really think of one. Because I'm a lawyer now, I'll use my current situation as an example. Because I'm a lawyer, I have to concern myself with what, potential clients or coworkers or bosses or any potential connections I have may think if they see this. So I can't be, hypercritical of one thing, and I can't be, hyper, positive about another thing. And you have to avoid sharing certain details. I mean, obviously my job, almost everything's confidential, so I can't share details about my job. And, I was just wondering how you felt about that. Do you feel like you have to censor yourself in a way? I kind of felt this way, though, to be fair, even when I worked at Winco. I didn't talk about my coworkers there. In fact, I never think to myself, oh, there's no way that so-and-so will ever see this. I always assume that someone can see this video and that everyone I know in the world could see it. So
Yeah.
I take that into account. I'm never, I never
Yeah.
say anything I wouldn't say in real life, basically.
Yeah.
Keep this person.
I can bring to mind a couple of instances where we kept like really personal things out when we were talking about someone, we both personally knew, or uh yeah, just really personal things, like, at work, we're not bringing up names, but
Right.
we'll bring up the idea of a person and talk about that. But like uh um but I've honestly, I never felt like I had to censor myself too much, because we didn't get onto topics very often where I felt like I had to censor myself.
Right.
We just didn't talk about those, I don't know, those kinds of things. And
Yeah, I feel like we don't get onto hot button issues
yeah.
all that often. And I mean, when we do, it's like either we feel passionately about whatever it is
Mm-hmm.
already. And so everyone in real life already knows this about us, even if it's people at work. At work, obviously, we don't discuss politics,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't need to. Everyone already knows how I feel. They can just
Yeah.
tell based on, probably the person I am, but
Yeah.
also, just talking to me outside the office. So, that I'm never going to be concerned that an employer will look and be like, oh my God, Yxlarb's pro gay. Like, I'm never going to be concerned about that.
Yeah.
Or it's like,
Well,
oh my God, he doesn't like Trump.
yeah. Well, it's also like we always have the game to pull us back if we're like, we can't go so far on a topic because something will come up in the game to bring
Right.
us back to the game. Something like a podcast, we can definitely veer too far in a direction where I think like, oh man, I need to start like, or veer away from that. But it's almost like, say you're riding a bike, and or even driving a car, you can look at the landscape, you can look around you a little bit, but in the end, you gotta watch where you're going. That's kind of
Oh
like
yeah.
what it is playing a video game versus if you're doing a podcast, you're kind of walking. You can definitely veer off and think about too many things, or be like, hey, I shouldn't be walking here.
Yeah.
But
No, that's a good analogy, actually. I like that. And that's totally
yeah.
true. I mean, especially when you're playing, a game that's like semi fast paced. You've always got one thing coming. It could be a cutscene, it could be like a new sequence or some dialogue happening in game, something interesting to talk about or make fun of.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's definitely totally different here. I mean, we've got freedom, and it could be easy to abuse. I think we walk the line just fine. No
Mm-hmm.
one's complained as of yet. Haven't heard any complaints. Wouldn't care if I did.
I
But
mean,
on that note, I mentioned, I think it might have, yeah, it was in the finale to Resident Evil 4, the one that just came out the other day. I have been going through Office rehab as of late. I decided I was going to let myself watch The Office, but I would make an
mm,
active attempt to avoid referencing it, at least excessively. I think I've been able to keep it under like 2 a day.
not bad. That's a
For
lot better than before.
significantly better. Wow,
Yeah.
it's been a problem, but there was my one for the day right there. So if you can tell
Nice.
me what what the exact reference was, that'd be amazing. If
Yeah.
I was you, I could, because that's just my disease. But I haven't found a way to profit from it yet. So
Mm, one
we'll
day.
see. But
One
yeah,
day. I guess.
that was weird. I think my wife just like slammed the door downstairs and it like sent rumbles throughout the house.
Oh, jeez, earthquake.
But were you about to say something? Because if not, I
No,
had
I think you were gonna say something.
yeah, I was. I had something I wanted to rant about. I always find a time in these podcasts or like during just inappropriate times during walkthrough videos
Mm-hmm.
to complain about something that I notice in the world. It's like these things aren't significant enough to make like a Twitter post about or
mm-hmm.
or to dedicate an entire forum to, but I see it often enough it bothers me. Okay, you and by the way, when I by the way, just so you know, it's like a grammar spelling sort of thing. So I know that's
Mm-hmm.
not fun, but that's the sort of thing that bothers me, especially since I write for a living. I noticed them beforehand too. I mean, like before I got to this point. But anyway, uh, I'm not criticizing anybody who makes this mistake. I just feel like no one ever points out the mistake, so no one learns from it. It's not that you're stupid for doing it. It's that people around you are stupid for not pointing it out to you. So the thing I'm talking about here is when people reference objects in like in a what's the word I'm looking for? Guys, I figured it out. So when people denote a word that in its plural form, they'll add an apostrophe. So for example, they'll say the Honda Civics, like multiple Honda Civics with an apostrophe S at the end. No, 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 no. There's no apostrophe. Apostrophe is either possessive or you use it for a, what do they call those words? Like, this is one thing. I know the rules of the English language very well, but I'm not very good with the technical terminology. So I think it's conjunction, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like combining the word they and the word are to make there. You have the apostrophe re. Now, those are the only two instances you're using an apostrophe. You're not. It's not the civics thing. It's not possessing anything. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to point that out. That's pretty much it.
I can't believe people do that. That's like adding an extra step. Like it just doesn't make sense.
I see it all the time on Instagram, especially. People be like, "Wow, I love Saturdays." Apostrophe s. Like,
That's terrible.
Why?
When do you put the apostrophe at the end of the word? I've seen that for like possessive
I love
situations,
this rule.
right?
This is one. This is one. I'll tell you guys. Even judges. Well, actually, I was gonna say they get it wrong. It's not technically wrong. When your name ends with an S, so let's think of a name, Simmons. Simmons. If you're saying it's Simmons' car, you would put an apostrophe at the end. Some people add an extra S, so it's like S apostrophe S, which is also technically correct. What you're saying there is it's Simmons's car. I don't think that sounds very good. I think it just it doesn't flow well. It's Simmons' car. It's his car. So that's when you add the apostrophe at the end. That's a long-winded way of saying that.
Interesting. So you could do it either way, and it's not wrong.
Yeah, right. And actually, the reason why I'm so familiar with this rule is that probably 3/4 of like the appellants that come to my court end with the letter S at the end of their last name. So it's like that's probably an indicator for who's going to be sued. Like if your name ends with the letter S, watch out, they're coming for you. just be careful. You have a 75% chance of that happening to you.
I think that's the only rule I've been like one of the only rules that I have trouble with. I mean, you've complimented my.
Oh yeah, guys, Bosniancheese is a great skills. Writer. Like, and the reason why it surprised me so about him is because he's not really like his career. Although he writes for his career, it's not urgent or necessary that he's like perfect in his grammar or his spelling or his use of punctuation. It's like, like when I was a TA in law school, my law students, like I expected absolute perfection because it just needs to be perfect. It's like all you do. Your whole job is writing. But Bosniancheese, with his singing, his rapping, his acting, that's why it surprised me. So I didn't mean to make it sound like you're uneducated and I expect you to be stupid.
No, yeah, it's unnecessary, and I think a lot of I don't know, a lot of people in my like fields they can't do that, and that's fine because it's not that important. But for some reason, ever since I was young, like it was just important to me to get it right. And yeah, like when I'm writing like raps or anything else, I go like the Mark Twain route of like writing how it's actually supposed to sound. And so, I'll completely I don't even think about like almost any grammatical stuff. Like I just want to write it exactly how it sounds. Like if I want a word pronounced a certain way, like I'll, write it wrong or whatever. Like some things won't be capitalized, some things will be specifically like, I don't know. It just helps like my mind, like when I come back to it, it kind of helps me understand it.
No, I totally get that. I just came up with a theory I'd like to posit though, as to our writing. So for those who don't know, we're Bosnian, and our parents are Bosnian. What? Like, I know
it's weird.
It's crazy.
And our kids,
but when they came to America, obviously they had to learn English pretty quickly, and to this day their English isn't perfect. And at the time, when I was young, especially like in kindergarten, when I was first starting to write things out, my parents couldn't help me very much because they barely knew how to spell things, or they barely understood English grammar. So I think I took it upon myself to, really learn that. So I didn't have to struggle like they did, because, I mean, obviously, people who just don't know the grammar rules perfectly, they're not struggling to speak. They can communicate just fine. But I
Mm-hmm.
guess I saw it as, very black and white. Being 5 years old does that for you. It's like you either
Yep.
are good at writing or you're bad at it, and you're going to struggle in life.
Yep.
So I think that could be, it for me. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
you had a similar experience, but I always found it peculiar that my parents couldn't write. And of course, that's a hallmark of my parents, is that they don't explain things very well. So when I was that age, it's like I just assumed everyone was having the same experience as me. Like everyone's parents don't know how to write.
Yep.
Uh, everyone's parents went from living on the street to living in the house. It's just the normal way of
Yep.
growing up. Like flawed perception, obviously, but that's what went through my head.
Yeah, I
Personally.
think. I think I had something similar to that. One thing that's just coming up is my sister and like Bosnians that were just like a couple of years older than me, maybe even just one, had to do like a special class to learn English. Like they had to go
Oh
into a special like English class, and I never had to do that. And
no,
I don't know, that just came up to me, and I was like, I thought it was weird that they had to, because I'm like, well, they speak English just like I do. Like I
that's
don't,
funny. Yeah, no,
I don't see
I
it.
remember I remember in elementary school and middle school there was this class called speech, and
Mm-hmm.
and so bad when when Andy and I were younger, we would make fun of our youngest brother Denny for not being able to say certain words, like the word. It's so funny, like the word remember. He would say, I can't even remember how he said it, but he just couldn't say it. Like with the R's and the multiple M's, he had trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So he'd be like, "Oh no, they're gonna put you in speech,"
I think I
and then
remember
he
that.
and then he'd cry. It was just a funny thing.
He cried. Oh
That's
god.
one thing. Like I've infected my wife with these stories of, like borderline sibling abuse,
Mm-hmm.
emotional abuse in particular. And after more than 6 years of being together, she finds them funny too. But then she'll tell like her friends, they'll be like, "Oh my god, poor Denny," like, or like, "Oh my god, Yxlarb's poor brothers,"
Yeah.
and they like won't laugh at all. It's like, ooh, you gotta be careful. Like I'm
Uh-huh.
sure you find it slightly funny when like the idea of like somebody getting hit with a belt comes about. It's
Oh
like, oh
yeah.
yeah, that's funny. But I mean, I was telling one of my closest friends just last week about this, and he's like, "Oh yeah, no, I didn't have that experience at all. In fact, like the one time it did happen to one of his brothers, he had to cry like for a long time. It's like, oh wow, sorry to bring you down, bro. It's
Yeah. I I kind of go back and forth. Like I do find it funny, especially like when it's like me and you joking about it.
yeah, right, right.
But then sometimes I think, I'm like, man, like if that was some other kid, I'm thinking about their development and their emotional development. And sometimes I think about that for myself too and us. But yeah, I don't know. Usually I laugh about it, even with my parents. Like I've laughed about it, but then at the same time, I brought it up to my parents in a serious way too.
Oh, same.
Like we've talked like seriously, deeply about it, and that's good. That we can even do that. But
Definitely. I
I
mean,
love laughing
we
about it. You have to laugh about it.
you have to. I
you
mean, I'm
you
sure
have
it's
to.
a defense mechanism for both of
Oh
us. I
yeah.
mean, we both turn to laughter when we're upset. So
Oh
it
yeah.
totally makes sense. But
I
you,
laugh when I'm in trouble.
yeah, that is what you
Honestly,
do.
like I go to the
Yeah.
office like when I was in middle high school. It's hilarious to me. I'm like, are we really here? Like, are we really doing this? Like, it's just funny to be in that position.
Yeah, no, I can't relate too much to the principal's office. I was only there once, which I guess could be a funny story. Actually, twice. One time was very serious, and it wasn't about me. It was about a friend of mine that they were concerned about the mental health of. So that one
Mm,
wasn't a fun experience. The other
yeah.
one, I'll tell you, it was the vice principal. So he was even worse.
Jeez.
We called him Wyatt Testy's Butch Cut, and if you knew his real name, it would make sense. But anyway, he called me out of Spanish class. Thank God, right? I mean, we were already winning. Brings me into his office and sends me down and then leaves. I'm sitting there for 15 minutes. Like nobody's in there, nobody's talking to me. He comes back and he finally sits down and he addresses what's going on. He's like, yeah, someone reported that they suspected you had used marijuana today, based on your eyes being really red. So I decided to sit you down in here. I mean, usually marijuana has a pretty strong scent. You close someone into a room like this for 10, 15 minutes, like it's just gonna reek of marijuana. But it doesn't, so you must be cool. I was like, yeah, contact's bothering me. And I was like, oh yeah, sorry. And then I moved on about my day.
Wow.
And for the record, I didn't use marijuana.
Yeah.
So I didn't have any reason to think like I'm in here because X. It was a weird situation. But.
That's funny. That's actually really funny. That's an interesting tactic.
It is, yeah.
And also, like, if a kid is using marijuana, say, like, for school, they probably do it before. It's not like they're going to bring it with them. But I guess that's the only way they could do anything about it is if, you brought it with you. Like, they're not going to look at your eyes and just be like, oh, yeah, you did it.
Yeah, I mean, actually, for those of you still in high school or middle school or wherever, just know that your legal rights are mitigated. In school. So like just don't think like you have all these rights. Like even if it's a public school, yes, technically it's like, the government, so your rights do apply, but they're not as strong. So don't even try to mess around in school. Like if you need to do some bad stuff, do it elsewhere. Like I'm not advocating for you to do bad things, but
just
like,
don't
really I'm just in the business of telling people their rights. That's really all I do.
Well, it's funny because the kids that are, bringing weed to school and smoking it there are the ones that should be sober and paying attention like as much as they can because they're fucking idiots.
Right. It's so bad. No.
It's so dumb. I had you know about this, but I had these contacts that were actually glass because I have some like weird eyes.
Right.
It's like astigmatism and like I'm nearsighted in one eye, farsighted in the other, and then some other stuff going on. So I had these glass contacts called pig lenses, and they literally took like 3 months to get used to. And by used to, I mean like for my eyes to adjust to them. Like my eyes would just be insanely red almost the whole time I had them on, and be itchy and horrible the whole time. I'm sure it was detrimental to my learning, but I'm sure people thought I was high all the time, and I wasn't even. I was just just had
that's it.
Shitty contacts in.
I was so ignorant at the time about, drugs and everything else in general. I mean, that's not even a thought that came up to me, like came up in my mind.
That people would do it at school.
Yeah, I mean, it's like who would do that? Like it's not a thought that occurred. I mean, there was definitely people who, had their cars searched at the high school and then were like immediately expelled or suspended or something. Like, oh, they were using? I had no idea. But being an adult teacher in a high school, I'm sure they've seen hundreds, if not thousands of people high or drunk or, they can see the signs.
Yeah, that's got to be really tough to see as a teacher, because there was definitely I've heard stories of that, and God, so many, like, yeah, no, there was actually this one story. I had this was in college. I interviewed my neighbor in my apartment just about a story or whatever, and it was just an assignment. I had to cut it up, and he told this true story about how he went to school like almost like actually like blackout drunk, and like I think like police or an ambulance came. No, I think it was like he was getting in trouble, and then he like fell and hit his head and like knocked himself out, and like an ambulance came to get him and everything. And like, at the time I'm just laughing my ass off, but like looking back I'm like, man, like you did that in high school? Like, sheesh. Yeah. Like that's gotta be, you gotta have a lot of going on at home or in your head for that to even be an option.
I know it's crazy to think about. And I mean, Bosniancheese knows this, but I was like a goody two shoes, like all the way through my all the way through high school, pretty much. I started rebelling a little bit in high school, but pretty much the worst thing I could think that I did was on this one particular day, a project was due, and my best friend and I, we stayed up all night the night before working on it, but we still hadn't finished it. And so our plan was, the following day we were supposed to go to this class. It was our first period, but then just 10 minutes later, we were supposed to go on a field trip for science. So our plan was like, okay, we're going to go to the school, be seen, but then not go to class, leave. Like we left like the whole building in my car, and then come back right as the bus is being loaded. And then, and that was it. I mean, I don't know why we thought being seen was a good idea, especially if we were going to be ditching class.
Yeah.
Don't know what was running through our minds at all, but that's it. That's pretty much the extent of my
Did it work?
Rap sheet. Oh yeah. Well, actually, that's the funny part of the story I forgot to mention. It worked because no one questioned us not being there, but she also postponed the due date to the following week. So it didn't really matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a good time.
Oh man.
Oh, something that just came across my mind. We were telling you guys last podcast, which was a few months ago now, I guess. The Bosniancheese, and his family were kind of working through like their. I don't even know if you knew you were getting a new house at the time. Probably not, right?
When?
Back in September. Because remember, you had talks of like building that like shop/studio.
Oh yeah, definitely didn't back then.
Yeah. So that got canceled, and as you guys know, things changed there. But we've got some new news in that regard. If you wanted to discuss
just the house.
Oh yeah, just the house and kind of your plans with it, and
yeah. So yeah, my family got a new house. Yeah, it's like 15 minutes down the road from the current one, which is really sweet. It's right next to my work, like walking distance, so that's really cool. And I'm not far now, so it's not too big a deal, but in the winter that's really nice because it's bad here. And something about where I live, maybe there's a lot of farms and like canals, so it creates fog in the winter for some reason, especially in the mornings. So that's and the fog's bad. Like it's 15, 20 feet in front of you. It feels like everyone has to have their headlights on, even when it's like daytime and there's fog. But it's like in just this like little dip. So I don't know. It's definitely cool getting that other house. It's bigger than the one we're in now. It's 2 stories with a basement that has like a ton of rooms, which is super cool. It's got this giant workshop, like a small little workshop, but then like a giant, it's almost like an RV garage, along with like another storage space and a little like, what do you call it? The little.
Oh, the area where you like leave your disabled grandmother like in the wheelchair, just roll her up to the window, and then she just sits there. Like in every horror movie ever, you have the attic room that's just like that. Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't have a disabled grandmother, but
something like that.
Yeah, like a little landing, little attic. So that's like just a bag. I'd say like that workshop / storage space is like almost as much space as my current house. So that's
it's crazy.
That's really cool. And then the actual house portion is bigger than this house, so that's awesome because we've been a little cramped here. I'm living in my niece's room. I've put so many things in that room. It's my workout place. Like I got my bench and my things. I got my keyboard set up in there. My bed's in there. Of course, I got a whole mixing table and like all my musical instruments. I got a bookcase in there. I got I call it my like creative desk. It's it's just like my creative station and a gaming station. Like I don't know, I fit it all into there, and I still have enough room to like lay out a yoga mat and like do that. So I've made the most of it here, but I'm ready to like it feels like my room is just ready to explode out into like 6 different rooms. So
oh yeah, so, definitely. Yeah. I mean, before you were just moving there, you were just living there like on breaks from school. So you never brought all your stuff back. It was just, enough to kind of make it through the week or 2 weeks or a month, whatever it was. But now that you're living there full time, I'm sure it's taking its toll. But have you solidified your plans for the basement of that house? And by the way, guys, to clarify, the house has 2 stories, and then in addition, it also has a basement. The basement isn't one of the floors. It's like, it's a great. I mean, it's a project for sure.
Oh yeah, that's one thing I gotta mention. It's a huge project. My parents got it really cheap because it's. I mean, it was just not livable.
Oh God!
It was just not livable. But thankfully, my dad does construction, and even though Bosnians, they specify in one area, they somehow learn everything about construction.
Right.
Like, and then we got a bunch of Bosnians coming in to do electricity. I think Yxlarb's dad is coming in to do some things. No, he definitely is. He's
nice.
He's doing some stuff. Yeah, we got Bosnians working on like every part. I think the only people that aren't Bosnian that are working on it is the plumbers and.
Oh, you know who else is going to be is
heating
the garage door guys. It's always one. I don't know. It's like ATA or ATV or something like that. That's the company's name.
Yeah,
ATT.
Bosnians.
No, they're not Bosnian, but they're like the only company that Bosnians will go to for their garage doors. I don't know. It's well, I mean, we haven't infiltrated that part of the market yet,
Yeah, one day. I mean, that's our calling.
That could be us.
We'll be those guys.
Yeah, we'll give up on everything we've done so far and just start that up. I mean, yeah, honestly, if you don't mind hard work and you're willing to put in the time, for at times like grueling weeks doing like hard work, it's not even a joke. It's seriously difficult, backbreaking work. You can make some good money. I mean, that's one thing. Like that's probably the first or second main reason why Andy, instead of pursuing, automotive mechanics after he was done with school, he just went to work with my dad, because it's like, first of all, he's already trained, so it's not like he had to learn a new skill, and then you just make solid money, just doing a lot of work. Yeah, but you can make a lot of money quick, and if you're looking to get into a house quickly, get into a new car quickly, and just sort of establish a foundation for your family, it's not a bad way to go. I mean, there's a reason why all Bosnians do construction.
I mean, yeah, it's a safe bet, and it's very like you put this much in and you're gonna get that much out, and that's why they're constantly just working so hard. It's not like music, where you can dedicate your life to it and get nothing out of it, like,
right? Yeah,
other than like just that experience, but. Yeah,
it's not like a typical hourly. Well, it depends on what you do. I mean, a lot of the Bosnians we're talking about, like our parents, they either own their own business or they, have specific contracts with multiple companies or one company or whatever. So they're not necessarily just hourly employees. They can, their time is a lot more valuable that way, because then they can.
Yeah.
I mean, then they can speed through a job and get paid the same amount. They don't have to kind of slow it down and sort of do mindless work. They can just.
Yeah, exactly. Like they'll just go ham, and working with my parents, even just like they brought that same work ethic from their actual jobs into this house. So working with them on this house, I'm like, I'm listening to this podcast, right? I got my AirPod in here, and I'm like, hey mom, you want to listen too? Like we can both listen to this podcast. You can put one in one ear and she has one. And she can't even like really listen because she's working so fast and hard. Like it's just one thing onto the next, like, and things that like kind of require your mind, especially when you're moving that fast. Like you have to think about what your next thing is, and it's just insane how much you can get done, but at the same time there's so much to do. So
I know. Yeah, and Bosniancheese's parents, the house he's currently living in, they've been remodeling that for like ever since they moved in years ago. So they were like, stopped, what? Our schedules are too open. We need to get another project house and get to work immediately. And
I know.
It's just it's crazy, because I mean, I've told Bosniancheese I couldn't possibly commit to, putting. I mean, I don't even know how much time your parents themselves are going to put in. I mean, easily 1,000 together, at least, definitely.
Yeah, I mean,
just working on this house. I mean, just cleaning it. I mean, to even get to this point where it's like actually possible to move around in the house and it's cleared out, and basically getting it ready for the actual construction progress, and then everything else after that. It's I can't do that.
It's so much. I mean, they work every day, especially my dad. It's every day. He's either putting in the same amount of time. Like, I think it's like, I don't know. I wake up at like 8 in the morning. He's not there, so he
Yeah.
leaves at like 7. So he's usually working from like 8 to 5. And if it's not at a house like that he's getting money from, it's at this house, and it's every day. He just doesn't take a break. So like his break is like the one day he got a break in like these last few weeks was when they were driving around to different stores to look for kitchen cabinets for the new house, and that was
Yeah.
his break. And I was like,
Yeah, it's a good
God
break.
damn. It's like it's an active rest. That's the best thing to call it. Like he's
Yeah.
still moving, and like someone else might get tired from it, but it's rest for him just because he's
Yeah.
going so hard. And that's kind of like that's where I strive to be. I definitely try to get that work ethic from my parents, just because like it's just the best way to be. Like my rest day isn't just like doing nothing; it's doing just a little less than what I usually do, which is which I strive to be exhausted. Like
Right. Yeah.
kind of, yeah.
And we talked about this before, guys. We don't get bored. We don't have
Oh no.
we don't
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wouldn't even call that a luxury. I was going to say we don't have that luxury, but it's literally it's misery being bored.
Yeah.
I recall I think I felt bored once or twice while I was in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
From the end of October to the end of November, just because I have so much less stuff there and there's so much less for me to do. I mean, the pandemic restrictions are far greater there, and your options are just lessened. I mean, really, aside from taking a walk, there's not much you can do. So
Yeah.
I'd feel bored there, but it's just the worst because time moves by so much slower when you're bored. I mean, I have a to-do list. I have a to-do list I constantly update day to day. I probably look at it 2 times a day. Once when I wake up, kind of get an idea of what I want to do. And this is in addition to whatever I'm doing with work or whatever. I
Mm-hmm.
put, I have different sections. It's actually pretty like well organized. I have like errands and chores, and I even have a list of fun things I want to do, but I just can't because there's so many
Yeah.
other work slash fun things I want to do before that. It's like, oh, I got to play this game, but before then, I got to do all this other stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
if I ever feel like boredom is about to, come aboard, I look at that. It's like, oh, I've got this whole thing to do. I'll go ahead and do dishes, and then right after that, I'll get to playing this game or
Mm-hmm.
talking to this friend, or it's like, oh, it's been a while since I've seen this person. It's
Mm-hmm.
actually it's pretty like formulaic, I'd say. I've got it down to a science
Yeah.
and not be bored.
Um. Yeah. I had this thought. I wanted to ask you, like, what. Um. I don't even know exactly how I want to word this, but recently I've been uh I think I talked to you about this, like trying to create a flow through my day and do a lot of different things at the same time. Like it'd be like exercising in the mornings and like playing some piano, and then like looking for acting things, and then I'll have like work or something, or if not that, then jump on to like making a beat or like writing. How do you like to, and how like what's like the ideal, like if you have a lot of things to do, or would you rather have like one thing to do like all day, or a lot of different things like that? How do you work best?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that one.
Yeah, it's a weird, it's
Can we
one
take
out
a
there.
20 on it, kind of circle back?
Yeah, sure, of course.
No, sorry, that was an office
Oh,
reference.
jeez. Well, that's your second. You're
My
done.
second one.
You're
No more.
done.
No more. Yeah, these being around Bosniancheese brings out the worst in me in that way. That's where the office references come from. But no, I think generally speaking, I mean, if it's a work day, I like it to be, pretty minimal. I have a very flexible schedule. In fact, I technically don't even have a schedule. My judge says, you can work as many hours or as few hours as you want. As long as you get the work done by the time it's due, then you're good. So, I mean, like, for example, today I finished one of my research memos. It wasn't due for another 2 days. So if I wanted to, I could take the next 2 days off and not do anything.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to get ahead on the next bit. But on the day that I work, I typically work, like 8:30 to 4:30. uh, with a lunch thrown in there, usually a pretty short lunch. But I just kind of feel out the day, especially since I'm working from home. I just kind of wake up. I like to I like to exercise first thing, so I
Mm-hmm.
usually wake up about 6:30. The reason why is because normally I need a lot of time to get ready and then drive to work, which is half an hour away. But because COVID, um, I'm still waking up at the same time, but I have 2 hours to kill. So get up, get on like my exercise bike or whatever. Um, then just sit down to do work. Kind of, I'll start work and then get to breakfast. I
Yeah.
because I mean, who's gonna stop me? I'm gonna I'm
Yeah.
gonna do what I do. And then once I'm done with work, I mean, especially now when it gets darker, it's hard to stay motivated. I mean, it's
It
six
is.
thirty and it's pitch black, but it's been pitch black since like 4 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy up here,
Yep.
up north, and we're not even the farthest up north. It's just crazy to me. I can't believe what people in
Like,
Canada are going through.
gosh, right? Like
But
3, 2.
crazy. But I guess to kind of more directly answer your question, on a work day, I like to have fewer things to do. I'll look at my list and see what big things are on there. If it's like I've got a lot of dishes, I'm going to do that, first thing after work, and then pretty much go to dinner and then just relax the rest of the night. On
Mm-hmm.
work days, I like it to be pretty minimal. I don't like to have two, three, four things to kind of address. And then on the weekends, I usually like to have one day where I get a lot of work done. I don't tackle the big projects. I tackle the many small things that have been piling up. Like, oh, I got to go to
Yeah.
the grocery store, got to go to the post office, got to uh, vacuum, got to take out the trash. All these like little things that have just been piling up throughout the week. And then one day I like it to generally be all about fun. Obviously, wherever I can, I insert fun throughout the week. Like
Yeah.
watching a movie with my wife or hanging out with a friend over Zoom or whatever it may be. But then on one day, I like to basically do nothing. Like, and I consider YouTube stuff to be fun stuff. So it's like I'll record on that day, I'll edit, I'll play video games, I'll see friends again, especially if I haven't throughout the week. So that's kind of my general schedule. But I think to answer your question, I don't have the same kind of flow where I'm going from one thing to the next, um, because I feel like for me, I have kind of a big delay. So I think it probably takes. Well, if I'm totally honest, I think I'm faster when it comes to completing tasks than most, um, just based on
Mm-hmm.
my experience. With taking tests, I'm always like the first one done. Writing papers, I can write them in no time flat, but I always have a crazy lag at the beginning. So it's like, whereas it might only take me half an hour if I really buckle down, I might have like a half-hour lag at the beginning that slows me down just a crazy amount because I'm spending a lot of time thinking and outlining and everything else. So if I had multiple small things to do throughout, especially if there were things that required any sort of focus, I
Yeah.
wouldn't get that much done, because if I have like a 15-minute lag for 5 different things, it's like more than an hour basically, not necessarily wasted. Whereas if I have one big thing, like work, for example, I might have that half-hour lag, but for the next 7 hours, I'm just locked in. I'm fully torqued at that, at that
Fully
point.
torqued.
So yeah, I don't know if that answers exactly what you're asking, but you can feel free to ask a follow-up.
No, yeah, I think that about got it. I've like at my house it's been hard to like I'm sure everybody has the same issue, but kind of like separating things into like, okay, this is this time, this is that time,
Oh,
this is this.
yeah.
Like it's time to, especially for me, it's like relaxing and having fun. It's like it's hard for me to even get into that mindset because I exist in this room where everything is right, like where my music stuff is and my entertainment station, like in my creative station, it's like all in the same place. So I uh yeah, every time pretty much I'm in my room, I'm always trying to like do some sort of work, and it's hard to get into the mindset of like, okay, it's time to relax or it's time to
All right.
have fun. But yeah, I think like I've managed to do that better by having these different stations and setting up my room, even though it's small. In a way, like I'll always sit in a different spot, for like the writing, and then I have a
Yeah.
spot I sit for the eating. I have a different spot I sit and like direction I face for gaming, and like for working, that's like the furthest from everything else, even though it's 2-3 feet away. Like
Yeah.
it's like the furthest from everything, just to kind of like get a stronger sense of separation between the things. And then like my bed is for fun and sleep. Like that's my spot when I want to just
Yeah.
relax. Like I can't like that's just a rule I've made for myself. Like no playing on my phone on my workstation. Like if I want to do that, I have to go to the bed. And so that's helped me like kind of make these boundaries in my own brain and
Yeah,
focus.
I can relate to that 100%. In my Seattle apartment, it's tiny. It's like 450 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
My office, being a desk, is right next to our couch in the living room.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, this place is already so tiny. These things are in the exact same space. It's like when I'm sitting there, just to my right in my periphery, I see the desk. It makes it very difficult to get out of work mode sometimes, especially if it was a stressful day.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that, some stress working in the law.
Yeah, right.
It's like it's hard to sort of call it a day anyway, but especially if you're working an hour plus past the clock, it's like, okay, I just need to like call it a day, tackle it hardcore in the morning. But it's hard to do that. I need, like, here I'm in my office and there's a door. It's its own room. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things you don't appreciate as much when you're living with your parents, because you just assume everywhere you live you're going to have a room to do your own thing, whatever you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the kind of separation I need. Once I'm done in here, I can go out there, close the door, and I put it out of my mind. It's great. It sort of harkens back to the day of living in the dorms. Bosniancheese remembers the dorms. I don't even know. Would saying they're 100 square feet be generous?
Yeah, probably.
Like even 100 square feet.
Tiny.
I mean,
yeah.
Like looking at this space, I mean, maybe. No. I actually think it might be even smaller than that, especially when you consider the fact that the bunk beds take up a lot of space. The fridge takes up space. So, I mean, you could probably, from the door, you could maybe take no more than 10 steps, normal size steps, and then you're at the wall. And then from side to side, maybe 3 or 4 steps.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, to get onto that, I couldn't do my homework in my dorm room, especially because my first year I had a roommate. So here in that tiny ass space, you've got like you couldn't barely maneuver. One of you has to leave the room for the other one to be able to enter or exit. Like,
yep.
So tiny. But so I would head to the library, head on down to like kind of the communal lounge area to do homework. That was like the only way I could do it, because if I'm in the room, it was actually the opposite problem back then. I think if I was living there today, I would feel pressured to do homework. But back then I felt pressured to play Forza and not do homework.
That's how I was too.
Complete turnaround. Yeah, it's amazing how you gain responsibility throughout life. Like, it just,
I don't know, it creeps up on you, that feeling of like something like I gotta be doing something. I can't be wasting time.
no,
I mean, I think for me it's just like getting older and seeing myself change. I'm like, oh man, like I keep getting older, and I'm at this age, 23, where it's not like, well, I don't know if it's like societal pressure or like, I don't know, I've just like seen or like understand like death more, like I don't know, I think about that and I'm like, man, I just don't want to waste a second of this. Like, I just want to be doing like the best thing all the time.
Definitely.
And it's almost never wasting time,
What I like about these podcasts, that we can hit a lot of different topics and just sort of delve into them, at the shallow end. We don't really have to. I mean, we could have one podcast per topic that we discussed today, probably, if we really wanted to. It's but yeah, we like to diversify, especially since you guys don't get too many of these. But that's probably the end of this one then, unless Bosniancheese has any final thoughts.
No, I think that's a good place to end it.
Certainly, yeah. You guys probably got a longer one than normal this time, but you're not gonna complain about that. You're like, oh my god, I only wanted 1 hour, not 1 hour and 10 minutes. How am I gonna fit this in during my lunch break?
Hour 15, actually.
Nice. Yeah, that's good. That might be the record. But
really, I thought we had a longer one. I feel like we had an hour and a half one.
I don't know, honestly. I mean, our first one was uploaded over a year ago, so it's hard to even think about that, compartmentalize everything that goes on. But
yeah.
Anyway, guys, today is December 18th, like I said. Tomorrow, or technically the next day, because I'm going to be making a stop on the way down, I'm going to be heading down to visit my family as well as Bosniancheese. And by the time you're seeing this, I think this will probably be a week before our next phase comes out, and I'm so excited for them to see it. They don't even know how good it's going to be. I gave them some hints in the update video that just went up recently, but I mean, they never figure it out. I don't think once anyone has ever properly guessed what's coming up next. So
I mean, it's usually pretty out there stuff, so it's kind of
usually, yeah. But
also, I didn't realize you were coming down tomorrow.
But tomorrow I'm gonna stop at our old college town, visit some friends there. Then the next day, Sunday, I'll be coming down.
Awesome.
I thought I told you this.
You probably did, but I just didn't process it. It just didn't hit me.
Now you know. Now you have warning, and we'll discuss some plans. Obviously, we're gonna work on some YouTube. We're gonna have a good time. You guys will see what we have in store here very soon. Keep January 4th marked on your calendars.
Yep.
We'll see you guys then.
All right. See you guys.